Welcome everybody to Car-Pinionated. This is our 5th episode. You'll notice that Glenn is not with us today. Glenn is under the weather. So we have my friend Keith Griffin, who's here. I'm Doug Stewart. I'm the senior digital content producer at Fox 61. And Keith, introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Doug. My name is Keith Griffin. I am a former president of the New England Motor Press Association, also a past member of the International Motor Press Association. I've been writing about cars, following the car industry professionally for about 20 years now, a little bit over, 21 years now, I think about it. Drive a different car every week. So I probably drive 60 to 75 different cars a year. Cars, SUVs, you name it. And just loved cars since I was a kid. And started to hear Glenn sick. Glenn and I used to work back at imprint newspapers. I won't say how long ago, but
well, good. So today we're gonna talk about the new Honda Pilot, and for our second segment, we're going to be taking flights of fancy and talk about what cars we would buy if we won the lottery. And then we're going to wrap things up with a discussion of how car buying has changed over the past few years. So on to our first segment. Honda has been very busy over the past 3 years or so. Out of 8 models that they sell, they've redesigned 5 of them, 8 models in the US anyway.
Yep.
Introduced a new Civic, a new Accord, a new CRV, a new HRV, and the new Pilot. For those of you keeping track at home, the Pilot is their big SUV, seats up to 8 people, has available all-wheel drive, up to $5,000 towing capacity, and size-wise, it competes with the Explorer, the Traverse, the Durango, the Highlander, and the Pathfinder. So, Keith, you had the opportunity to check out the new Pilot in Boston, was it?
Yep, just outside of Boston at we call it NEPA, World Headquarters, New England Motor Press Association. Honda brought a couple models up for us to check out, to look at. Unfortunately, not to drive. Just it was a kind of oddly, it was a foul weather day, but so we weren't able to get behind the wheel and spend any time driving it. But it gave us a chance to look at two of the new models, the Elite and their trail model, and just this is an important vehicle for Honda to do well with, because the big SUVs are their big breadwinners. And so Honda really wants to distinguish itself and make itself equals to all those others that you mentioned, and make them a strong consideration. They automatically used to be, you would check the Honda Pilot off the list first, but the third generation was kind of nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
And their competitors came out and just really started to up their game, and I think Honda realized that, and so they did a lot to change its exterior and interior.
Yeah, it's gone from being just vague versions of the same all along to now it's got some style to it.
Yep, yeah, and I think a little bit of a derivative style, but it's a style that I think Honda realizes it works in that segment. It's what people expect.
Yeah, and I think you're right. People have always, I mean, that's kind of a given that that's the car that they'll look at, right?
Yep.
But then you had other vehicles like the new Ford Explorer in the market make quite an impact, and like they're a splash, right? And
yes,
like, okay, well now so they kind of drift farther and farther to the side. What do you think is Honda's new styling language?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it's maybe a little derivative. They're trying to give it a more rugged look. I thought they really succeeded in creating a Japanese version of Ford Explorer, but which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Honestly, I don't think Honda's really ever been known for distinctive styling. They tend to fine tune, but I think this is a kind of a big departure for them. You could really tell the difference when you park a third generation next to the new fourth generation, and it's good. It's a handsome vehicle. It looks substantive, which I think is important. It's going to make people feel comfortable driving it. I think the third generation was slipping a little bit towards. I hope you won't get hate mail for me saying this, but towards soccer mom. And this is a little bit more of a redesign to appeal, oddly enough, to appeal to soccer moms. So they're not seen driving a soccer mom vehicle, because women still make up they're at least 60 to 65% of the influence when it comes to buying new vehicles. So oddly enough, they had to make something that's attractive to that demographic by making it more rugged.
Yeah, and more attractive in a way that is distinctive rather than, oh, what did you buy sort of way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where the Telluride and the
What's
Palisade,
that? Palisade, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think where those really like have presence, you know.
Yep.
And I think that's and that's what helps sell every one of them on the lot, you know.
Yep. And they're also exceptionally great vehicles too.
Right.
But what Hyundai did and Kia did in those instances is they put a real, as you say, distinctive design on them. So you know right away you're looking at a Kia or a Hyundai, which was smart.
Right. Right.
I still think with the Honda, it doesn't immediately scream Honda to you, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Glenn and I have discussed this in several episodes, that Honda's design language in the last generations of any one of those vehicles has been, let's be generous, chaotic.
Yeah.
And they've really sort of, what they've done now is they've toned a lot of it down. They've gone to, you know, what was good in that design language, and then really kind of cleaned it all up and given real brand consistency through all those models, you know, that really you can look at any one of those and say, okay, well, that makes sense. That's a reasonable progression. What did you think of the interiors? Were you able to sit in it? Let me ask that first.
Yep. Able to sit in it, comfortable, roomy. The new Pilot's a little bit bigger. I think the figure they're looking at is maybe a couple more inches, like 2.5, let's say 2.5 inches of legroom. The third row is never going to be a place you and I visit. Yeah. Not without a gun pointed at us and a bag in our head.
Which is my least favorite way of getting into a car.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again. Second row is going to be a tight fit for 3 grown men to sit, but it's going to be more than enough for, say, 2 adults and a kid. Nothing distinctive about the interior. Nothing that really jumps out. It makes you go, wow.
Yeah, I think Honda's also been really good at keeping some things physical controls and not putting everything in the electronic display.
Exactly, and you're seeing a lot of car companies realizing their mistake and going back to it, because Americans, they want to be able to tune the radio.
Right.
You know, and they want to be able to adjust the air conditioning, the heat.
Right.
Well, the same driver can drive the same vehicle for 10 years, but every day they're going to want to adjust the heat. They're going to want to tune the radio. They're just turn on the air conditioning with a knob. You know, it's just the way of life. It's just a fact. And car companies fought that so vigorously, and potentially it's physical knobs have to be cheaper and easier to maintain too. I mean, there's no software glitch.
Right.
If you're trying to go from 102.1 to 102.9 with a knob.
Mm-hmm.
So glad to see Honda go back to that.
Yeah.
Or maintain that, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think car manufacturers really discovered that there was a mistake. And that's, and I've been in a Tesla and I've been in a Mustang Mach-E, and the
Yep.
thing that impressed me immediately about the Mach-E was that, anyone could get in it and put it in drive and drive away. I mean, there wasn't
Yeah.
like I'm shifting on this iPad, in the
Yeah,
Tesla.
exactly.
Yeah.
I love that Mach-E, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be a that'd be in my fleet for the next segment we're going to discuss. I'm a practical lottery winner. Sorry, didn't mean to jump ahead on you.
No, that's okay. Any final thoughts on the Hondas, the entire line, or the pilot?
The Pilot is going to be a good vehicle. It's going to be a smart choice. It's going to have Honda reliability. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to drive well. The new 3.5 liter V6 puts out 285 horsepower. I may not sound overly enthusiastic, but there's nothing really that's going to disappoint you about the Honda. Honda's smart. They designed their vehicles for the middle 60% of the market, and so I think that's why they continue to do so well year after year, decade after decade. Really don't ever hear people having buyer's remorse when it comes to a Honda. There's companies that track buyer's remorse, and they're not on that list for a reason. That they're just good, solid transportation. It's not going to make your heart palpitate driving one, but it's also not going to make your heart palpitate driving one at the same time,
Right,
which
right.
is a contradiction.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's this new one's it's a winner. It's got all the features. It's for those people who like to think they drive their vehicles off road, even though 5% of owners at the most drive these vehicles off road. They'll be excited that they have that capability. You're not really going to get much off an invoice when you buy a Honda, because Honda knows it has people waiting to buy their cars, and their SUVs and their trucks. Maybe not their trucks, but their cars and their SUVs.
Let's move on to our second segment. So in the enviable fantasy that you win the lottery, what vehicles are you buying?
That's a great question. It's I'd go electric with one of the vehicles. It's I was saying I'd get the Mach-E, but if I was a lottery winner, I have a friend who bought one, and I for some unknown reason I'd buy a Hummer if I had that kind of money.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go electric, I'm going to go a 9,000-pound electric. I can't think of anything more impractical. For other ones new, I know it's fantasy, but I'd go Bentley. I'd want some kind of Bentley in the driveway. I guess maybe I'd go with the SUV, just because you get the experience of owning a Bentley with. Listen to me, it's along with the practicality of an SUV, plus the better hit point. I still remember I was at a Bentley introduction years ago, and the Bentley folks like to say that Rolls Royces are designed to be driven in, and Bentleys are designed to be driven. So that's for some reason it's always stuck with me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then this company this year is slated to make 50 of these. It's called a Donkin Fjord. It's just a sleek, beautiful 2-passenger. It's all engine. So there's nothing behind you, pretty much type of thing. And it's like I said, they're only making about 50 of them. It's coming out of the Netherlands, and it's 500 horsepower, but it only weighs 3/4 of a ton.
Wow.
So yeah, so we're looking at like what's that, 1,500,
Yeah.
1,600 pounds. So yeah, so that it I showed it to a friend of mine. He said, "Where would I put my groceries?" I'm
Yeah.
like, Instacart. But
Yeah.
I guess I would take the Bentley to the grocery store,
Right.
yeah, and leave this one just to drive whenever. But it's something you haven't heard of, and it's just I think if you have lottery money, you really want to be able to have everybody's head turned,
Right. Right.
you know.
And
And
it's
then
something that you
go
can in your house in
but
Europe, you can keep it there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I think you said maybe a classic car for
Yeah.
the fourth choice.
Yeah.
I go maybe because it's the real first sports car I ever reviewed is they're one of the first ones. It's the first generation Acura NSX.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a car that just cornered, handled like it was on rails.
Mm,
And so that'd be
beautiful too.
my oh beautiful, yeah. Yeah, that'd be my aspirational vehicle. I've driven the second generation one and uh egress and exit and entry into it was a challenge. Maybe that's because I was 20 years older, it, but I still like the looks and the handling better. And again, it's memory. I'm going back 20 years, but it's the NSX would, and again, it's not a car that people are thirsting for. It's not like say a classic Porsche or something like that.
Mhm. But I still think that there's a hefty interest in it. I don't think it's something that no one wants. I
Oh
think
yeah,
those that there's a good market for those still.
yeah,
Yeah. What in good condition that hasn't been modified to beat the band. You know.
exactly. But yeah, but it's again, it's a little bit distinctive.
Yeah. I would go with a Lincoln Aviator. I think you were at the unveiling in New York. I know I
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
And it was like one of the few times I've ever been at a press event uh, at an auto show where the car was unveiled and there was like a gasp in the room almost.
yeah.
And just beautiful lines, just and it's not
Beautiful interior too. That's a really stunning interior.
it's just every piece of that works for me. I really like that vehicle. I'd also do a Ford F-150 Raptor
Oh sure.
because it makes a lot of noise and you can put stuff in the back, dirt in the back if you wanted to do. You know,
Is
I always look at those and think, yes, they're a statement of a lot of things.
oh yeah.
But I just find them really sharp. I do.
What
Um,
about the Raptor R? Would you go for the
yeah, well,
hyper?
if I had lottery money, yeah, I'd go with the Raptor R. The last of the new cars that I would get, a CT5V Blackwing. I,
Okay,
I just those are, oh my God, I just love those. Just stealth car. You know,
yeah.
uh,
Well, that's interesting. I've always thought the Cadillac made a station wagon
mm,
with a V model of their station wagon. We talk about a stealth car.
yeah,
Yeah, Cadillac does stealth well.
yeah. And for a classic vehicle, I mean, there's a lot of them. But a 1994 Mercedes 500e.
Oh, nice choice.
Something about having a huge engine in a basically a mid-sized car,
Yeah,
mid-sized compact car, depending on how you look, and the way the fenders flare out there, and just everything about it. From the moment they introduced it, that was like, I want that. Let's move on to our last segment here. Over the years, if we were lottery winners, we'd be buying a lot of
yeah.
cars. And you and I are both old enough to remember what car buying used to be like.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you
Remember,
go,
yeah, the literal, you had to know somebody who worked at a bank who had the NADA guides that could give you the trading value. That's the only way you're going to find them out, unless otherwise you were totally reliant on the car dealer.
yeah, and I worked for that car rental company, and we had them. We had those books all the time.
Okay.
They were invaluable. Like, you'd have to go to dealer after dealer after dealer, and like they wouldn't talk to you on the phone. You had to. They
No.
wanted building, you know, then they gave you the test drive, and you know, that's the way it was, you know. Then you had to do a lot of legwork, and what you were doing a lot of it in the dark. If you were buying a new car, you didn't see a list of options and how much they
No.
cost, you know. So arguably it's so much easier today. I mean, you have so much information at your fingertips, and I think that to a lot of degrees that the advantage has shifted much more towards the consumer, and I think that's a really good thing, you know, where people can, you know, get out there and arm themselves if they want with
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You could, people totally go out, build a car, spec it out, and then kind of buy it stupid. You know, it's still amazing to me the stories I hear from people. Like they've done all the research, they've got every last feature they want on the car. They go out to test drive it, and then they totally get skunked by the dealer when it comes to actually paying for the car.
right, right.
You know, but there's so many great tools out there. I mean, I love the feature that you could go to an OEM website like Chevy and look for dealers within 75 miles to see who has the vehicle you're looking for. And you're like, no more this. Well, let me get on the phone and see if I can find it for you somewhere. You can say, no, it's out in Peekskill,
Yeah,
you know, bring it to me, type
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. Or go get it, or go get it too,
Yeah, oh,
because
yeah, true.
sometimes like, you know, you know that you don't ever want to deal with dealer X, you know, but to buy the car, but you'll certainly get it serviced there, but you'll go, you know, 40, 50 miles away to buy the car itself. And, you know,
Exactly. Yeah, I've known people who've gone multiple states away to buy a car for the new car. I don't know if I'd ever buy. I might be uncomfortable buying a used car, say a recent used car
yeah.
from Missouri. But there are people who will go out and fly out, pick up a car, and drive it back to Illinois.
There's a huge business in car auctions. You have
Yep.
eBay, you know, bring a trailer, cars and bids, you know, bunches of them where, you know, you're looking at is 150 pictures. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know as I'd do that, you know, and I'm sure there's some sort of, you know, return policy or something, but man, that
I
just
know.
that's a wing and a prayer to me. So, you know,
And I used to write about used cars for about.com. And so I'm just always very suspicious. You know, it's again, I don't think I could do that unless I had like an independent mechanic
hmm,
out there inspect it.
mhm.
You know, but yeah, I'd have to have somebody who I
Yeah,
trust an awful lot to give me a good give me a good thumbs up on a vehicle before I could buy it just based on its pictures.
right. I that was my one thing about I remember looking at a car at CarMax once, and I really liked the car. But you know, it's like what I've always done with the used cars, brought it to a mechanic, you
Yep.
know, and no, you can return the car after 7 days if you don't want it. Like, yeah, but then I've plated it, I've done all
Yeah.
the, you know, and I just, you know, that's not an option. I mean, you know, I realize I get cars are more reliable these days. I get, you know, I get that part of it, but still it just seems, I don't know. That's and you know, then you have like Carvana and those types of companies where, you know, it's all online and you don't see the used car until it shows up, you know. I don't
Exactly. And that's kind of back to the point I was talking about before. It's where people buy stupid. so to speak. They're really smart. They research the car, know everything about it, but then the guy, again, I'm not necessarily saying CarMax is a bad place, but the guy CarMax will say, "Oh, you can return it in 7 days," counting on the fact that you won't return it in 7 days.
It's going to be a
Because
hassle.
you're not going to have that buyer remorse for at least 30 days.
Well,
Yeah.
um,
And realize that you've bought the wrong car, overpaid for it.
the other
Yeah,
thing, they built a Carvana. It's, it's no secret that they have had a lot of issues.
Yep.
It was Illinois where they weren't being able to sell, Illinois, Michigan, I think, where they couldn't sell cars any longer, and they built the car elevator, right?
Yeah.
They built one of these in Denver, and it sat there empty for like a year. It's right on the exit, and it's just this empty glass box. And they just recently started filling it with cars. Was it
empty because they had no inventory to fill it?
Oh no, and just like the whole structure, the whole building, everything, there was nothing in the building. The signage up there, I mean, people knew it was a Carvana site, but they
oh jeez,
there could have been a lot of reasons for it,
that's funny.
not the least of which is, Carvana's just general financial situation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, once used car prices start to go through the roof, it just became Carvana couldn't exist. It just, because they weren't able to meet their margins. They have to make a certain profit on each car, and when you're paying way over value for used cars. I have a friend of mine who has a used car dealership down in Atlanta, and he just talks about how crazy the auctions have gotten, where cars that are legitimately were really worth $15,000 are selling for 22,000 at auction. And then they have to turn around and add markup on top of that. It's just not sustainable.
All right. Well, Keith, I appreciate you taking the time out. We'll have you back, and the three of us chat about cars and stuff. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have any comments, if you're watching on the YouTube version of this, leave a comment down below. Give us a subscribe and a like. If you're watching it on one of the OTT channels, appreciate that. And we'll be back next month. Thanks,
Doug.
Okay.
Bye-bye.